Hey everyone, in today's video we're going to take a look at this Crosley AM clock radio. I'll tell you what, I did not think this thing was actually vintage when I saw it. Let me explain. When I think of Crosley, I do not think of something like this. I think of a really bad record player you buy at Target that is of very poor quality and is just looking vintage to look vintage. I really actually didn't know that Crosley was a real brand back in the 1950s. And this is an example of that. This is a model 11-122U AM clock radio. You can see we've got some functionality in here for sleep, alarm, radio alarm, or whatever. Then over here is your tuning dial. You control that with this. Then over here, I think this is your power. So really cool, legitimately vintage Crosley piece here. And the white power cord really gives it away. That's very 1950s for sure. I mean, this camera is set to auto, so the color is changing like over and over again, but like this is a very, very cool, very period correct green color. And even that little logo in the middle right there is really neat. Love the little attention to detail we've got here. Taking a look at the back, there's not much here, but if you look through it closely, you can see there's tubes in there. We've got a phono input right here. You can switch between phono or radio. And then I'll show you on the bottom, that's where the model number and things are. And there's all of our info down here. 35 watts, Cincinnati, Ohio, printed in the USA. I'm assuming this thing was also made in the USA. And there's our layout there. There's our tube types and where our speaker is. So first, let's just go ahead and power this thing on. Put it in our device under test here. Switch it to dim bulb. Here's our switch right here. So it says alarm, radio, off, and radio. So I've got it set to radio. We're not pulling much current. Oh. Okay, we've got some sound. Well, it would appear this thing works. You know, obviously there's not many AM stations left, but there are some. It looks like this is the only one we can get. And as I play with the volume here, we can get it to go louder. It's difficult to get it to tune. And that just sounds like we've got a lot of AC hum coming through the speakers, so we might have some bad capacitors inside. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But one good thing here is our clock is working. So it's great that it works. We didn't have a bright bulb on the dim bulb. Just could obviously work a little bit better. I think I'll take this apart, take a look inside, see if we've got any really old oil paper capacitors, and yeah, go from there. Oh, also, we've got an AC outlet on the side there. That's pretty cool. I'll have to see how that's wired. And straight away, I can tell by this flathead screw and these bigger screw marks that are about the size of these, someone's been here before. Right there, flathead screw. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on in here. Okay, and this would be our antenna. Disconnect AC plug from receptacle before removing cover. Okay, well, I turned my thing off, but I might as well be a good boy and listen. Yeah, check that all out. There's our vacuum tube greatness all in there. I'll bet you that guy right there is no longer good. We will definitely be testing it. So normally the construction of these things requires that you remove all the knobs. There's some screws on the bottom, and then this whole thing may slide out, in theory. Well, there's no screws down there. Do these come off? Okay, that comes off. That does. No, that comes off. There. This guy probably comes off. Yep, perfect. So that all needs to slide back somehow. I also need to push in right here to get that free. And I think I've got it now. I think this will all come straight out. Yep. Okay, we've got the electronics out of the body here. So now let's take a look underneath and see what we're working with here. This thing is so simple. And yeah, we've got some really old stuff in there. Actually, one of them said oil. So you can see anything that looks like a waxy little cylinder, that is an old oil paper capacitor. Yeah, that yellow one right there, you can see where it says oil. So what I'd like to do is recap this thing. There's only like 8 of them in here maybe. And then we have the multi-section can up here. I'll take a look at that. There's enough space in here to add individual electrolytics if we want to do that. I'll take some values, I'll report back when I've got them, and we can get to work on this. All right, we're back, and we've got some parts here. So tube stuff is definitely outside of my wheelhouse, but one thing I do know is carbon comp resistors like this, like the drift, and capacitors like this, these paper oil ones, they all will fail. And this thing is 70 years old at this point. There is no good reason to keep any of them in here. They all gotta go. Yes, I am just shotgun replacing everything, but I would much rather work on something that has all new components. Maybe it'll work just fine when I'm done. I'm not expecting that, but this isn't that complicated of a radio. If you want to know tube stuff really well, go check out Mr. Carlson's lab. He's actually really smart, unlike me. So let's just get on with the service how I plan to do it. Before we replace caps, I would like to use some of this stuff, some WD-40, and we will just kind of spray this all into this tuning cap to clean it out. And I'm doing this now because I want this stuff to dry out completely by the time we're ready for testing. There's a lot less dust in there now, tell you what. And we'll leave it open like that so it can dry. Next thing to clean is this potentiometer. It was very dirty, there's a lot of stuff in there, so we'll hit it with this first. That's just to flush everything out. We'll give that just a second, and then we'll go hit it with some of this stuff, and that'll make that volume potentiometer much quieter. Now we can go ahead and get started with the replacement of these capacitors. I'm going to start right here at that little junction, so we'll just heat up the Heiko real hot, and we don't have to worry about too high temperatures with this point-to-point stuff because, well, I mean, there's no PCB traces to lift. So, see it bubbling up. Wait a sec, then take up what we can. There's probably a little more to be had there. But not too much more. Then we can come in with the iron and start trying to move these leads around. If you can unwrap them, that's great, but what I might end up doing, in fact that is what I'm going to end up doing, is I'm just going to cut this capacitor right here, and I know that it connects right there, but now I can bring in my soldering iron. I can come up under here at that lead that I just undid, and I can start untwisting it, like so. And then I'll have to retrieve that. Where'd it go? Yep, right there. I'll do the same thing for that other capacitor that I know goes there. Pull that out. Looks like this one grounds to the chassis and this one grounds to the tuner cap. And I don't know if you noticed it, but we've got one hiding under here. And it'd probably be a good idea to get this one taken care of while these two are out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually not much solder on that ring for that tube socket, so I'm just going to not even desolder over there because I can just get my new lead in there easily. But where the heck does this one? And then right here is where I'm going to want to go next with that one. So Go ahead and desolder that. Probably need to chop this one just because it's going to be difficult to slide this thing out. Wow. This is definitely one of the first components that was laid in here. There's just not much room to get it out of here, huh? And I actually didn't even see this one when I was taking my initial parts order, so hopefully it's common to something I already ordered. You can see these things are a little tough to read, but that is 0.08 microfarad, 200 volt. So what do we got to replace that? We've got 0.1400 volt, which is exactly what that one is, and I bought 3. So we're good to go there. I think I'll bend it like this, and then I'll come in. Now that that one is in, I can solder this one into place. And I can come in here and get the tube socket taken care of. Just kind of bump that, make sure we're not moving inside of the joints, and it looks like we're good. Let's trim the excess. What about these two? Well, let's get them taken care of. I think that one went on top, and I think I'll keep it on top, so I'll desolder at the chassis here so we can get this one out. This one is, again, the 0.08 microfarad. We'll replace that with the 0.1. And just a brief note on these replacement capacitors. These are all film capacitors. So they don't have a polarity like the old ones do. And that's a nice thing, because now I don't have to worry about polarity. Get this one off next. This is going to take a lot of heat. So there, that's looking okay. We've got our joint back on the body of the cap here. Feels strong-ish. And then over here, you may have seen I messed the one up, but I got it on there. So now these 3 are finished. We have 5 more paper oil caps to go, so I'll just time-lapse through that without saying much, and we'll come back. Alright, we got a bunch of old stuff taken out of here. All the new caps are in. Now we gotta talk about the multi-section capacitor on this thing. See, right down here, this GE component is a multi-section capacitor. As you can see, it's got a square, a triangle, and a minus sign. That's how you know which pin of this component is what capacitance. It's tough to get it on camera, but you can see we've got a 10, a 30, and a 100. I've removed a lot of the components so you can see, but you can see the square, the triangle, and then the unmarked one is the dash. And then those 3 pins on the outside with the wires going to them, well, one of them doesn't have a wire, that's your negative, essentially. So if we take a look at our schematic here, we come off of the rectifier tube. We've got C16A, C16B, and C16C. So that's the 100 section, the 30 section, and the 10 section. So how do you replace that in the modern day? Well, you just get your 3 capacitors, brand new ones. So here's our 100 right here, and then we're going to do a 33 instead of a 30, and then we've got this 10 right here. And what we can do is we can join them by the negative lead and just kind of twist those negative leads together. Just like that. So we've got the negative lead common. That's essentially what that component is. And then you see we've got some resistors between these capacitors. Then we're going to take a resistor like so. Like this one has to be 1200 between the 100 and the 30. So we'll just go like this. We'll twist this resistor across the positives. And then coming right off of our rectifier tube, we go through a 100 ohm resistor. We'll just connect our 100 ohm resistor right here at the positive end of the 100 microfarad capacitor, and that's going to go to the rectifier tube, which is that one. This is basically a diode before there's diodes. This is how we start our DC, basically, and then we're filtering just like we do in a regular solid-state 70s amp. And here's the end result. It's not pretty at all. I didn't have a 1.2K resistor, so I had to get fancy with a 330 and an 820. And there's our 3 caps. They're all joined with a common negative in the middle. And then that goes to the old common on the old capacitor. Then the old resistors are ripped out. Our original 1K resistor and 1.2K resistors were out of spec, so we had to replace them instead of reusing the old ones, which are right here. So everything is replaced. I have jumped these back 2 pins because you remember those 3 pins, that was for the switch, which is in a separate module. We can set this to dim bulb. See it light up a little bit. And then if we wait, we should get sound. And there it is.
For Patriots program. From the invisible bones of war.
Every year, millions of Americans use opioids.
It works.
Whoa, haven't filed a return for a while? Their happy clients are talking. The IRS was gonna...
So, those are our 2 AM stations in this area.
Opioids are appropriate in some cases.
And I know that.
They just mask the pain.
This thing is actually really, really loud. It can get quite loud. And now it's more reliable because we don't have any of this junk in there anymore. By the way, these all tested out of spec. Every single one of them. And this diode, I saw it in here. I don't see it in the schematic. It's nowhere to be seen in the schematic, so I just took it out. I tried putting a working diode in instead, and it made no difference at all. So I don't know what's up with that. Another thing I found was this 1K resistor was just gone. So like this 10 microfarad capacitor is basically just doing nothing. I tried putting it in and taking it out. Again, no difference. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that. Then obviously you don't want this too loose in here because you don't want this shorting on anything, especially when this doesn't have a protection fuse. So you just tape that down, glue it down, whatever you want to do. Just make sure it's stable and insulated. I think I will do tacky glue and electrical tape. there it is, folks. All that old stuff gone. And now this thing is looking mighty, mighty fine. What a beautiful piece from the 1950s. They just don't make devices quite like this anymore. Let's see if it turns on. Tube radios take a little bit to warm up. And there you go. AM talk radio. I don't know why, but it's all AC hum out here, but what I do know is that there's no stations in this region.
And great job. Thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for being a great dad.
And there you go. We could test the alarm, but I don't feel like it, and I know that that's not going to be used, like, ever. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Normally I don't do tube stuff on this channel anymore because it historically does very poorly, but I just thought this thing looked so cool that, you know, I might as well make a video on doing some tube stuff again. And yeah, I seriously had no idea Crosley was actually a real American radio brand. I will no longer think of cheap garbage Walmart record players that don't sound very good. Thank you to my subscribers, and thank you to my members who get early access to videos, just like this one. I will see you in the next one.